Hi there, welcome to the Met Office 10-day trend. As I record this, it is the UK's warmest day of the year. So far, the first time 20 Celsius has been exceeded. And the Met Office app shows sunshine every day where I live for the next 5 days. Welcome news following the first 2 months of this year. Why did we get here and will it continue? Well, let's start with the bigger picture. Here's the jet stream. Not just the jet stream, but multiple jet streams. We've got a subtropical jet stream running across North Africa. And then this is the polar jet, a much more amplified feature running across the Atlantic and into Europe. And it's this amplified nature that has led to higher pressure building across the UK as this extended trough, that's what we call it, this dip in the jet stream, cuts off from the main flow. Low pressure forms near the Azores and Portugal. And over the next few days, well, we can expect high pressure to continue to influence the UK's weather. Now, on Wednesday, we've got a southerly airflow. That's why parts of North Cornwall, North Devon, West Wales have been warmest. But the winds switch slightly into Thursday, and that will mean a slightly different distribution of warmth and slightly lower temperatures. However, high pressure is still in charge. That means a lot more dry weather, a lot more sunshine to come for many, although not for all. You'll notice a weak front trapped under the high and bringing extensive cloud as we begin Thursday across parts of central and southeast Scotland, northeast England, even some spots of mostly light rain. That's going to impact the temperatures in the east of Scotland, northeast England, 10, 11 Celsius at best. But we've got the sunshine elsewhere, temperatures into the mid-teens, and that goes for Northern Ireland, where we have seen cloudier skies during the last couple of days, plenty more sunshine on Thursday, and 14 or 15 Celsius. So temperatures into the mid or even high teens, not quite as high as Wednesday, but a lot of warm sunshine nevertheless. A bit more of a breeze along the English Channel coast there, coming from the east, helping to limit those temperatures. Now, the cloudy zone across central and southeast Scotland, that kind of continues to stay there through Thursday night. It will prevent a frost in those places, but elsewhere, under clear skies, a widespread frost will form. A chilly start to Friday after the warmth of Thursday afternoon and some mist and fog patches to begin things. It's one of those days where you might be scraping the car first thing, but then enjoying the warm sunshine by the afternoon. We're talking again about mid to high teens in those warm sunny spells, and you'll notice temperatures actually boosted across southeast Scotland, northeast England, and that's because we lose the cloud cover, sunshine returns, and the winds change direction slightly, and that's certainly going to favour eastern parts of Scotland. And you can see the difference 24 hours make here. This is the difference in temperatures from Thursday afternoon to Friday afternoon. The red areas showing where it's going to be considerably warmer, several degrees warmer across eastern Scotland, northeast England. Elsewhere, a couple of degrees cooler in places, not significantly, and because it's effectively going to remain sunny, I doubt we'll notice that much anyway. But that change in wind direction in Scotland marks a subtle change as we go into the weekend. High pressure more focused towards the south, towards the north. We've got more of a westerly airflow, and certainly by Sunday that will allow an area of low pressure, a deep low near Iceland, but staying well clear of the UK. Well, that low is going to send a weather front into the northwest of Scotland, bringing thickening cloud and outbreaks of rain during the day on Sunday. But further south, high pressure holds on throughout the weekend, and that means more sunny skies for many places, certainly across England and Wales. This is Saturday afternoon. Scotland and Northern Ireland, a bit more medium and upper level cloud, but you'll notice hardly any rain on the map, just a few light showers towards the far north of Scotland, and barely a cloud on the map for England and Wales as a result. 15, 16 Celsius. Pleasant enough, a bit cooler on the east coast because we do have an easterly breeze here, a bit cooler on the northwest coast because we've got a westerly breeze here, and that westerly breeze picks up somewhat as we go into Sunday morning. That means it's frost-free across Scotland and Northern Ireland. We've got thicker clouds starting to build here, outbreaks of rain dawn on Sunday in the northwest of Scotland and Shetland. Further south, England and Wales, a cold start to Sunday because widely clear skies and light winds will allow temperatures to fall. Mostly 1 to 3 Celsius, but in some sheltered spots below freezing. So a cold start in the south, but plenty of sunshine, and that sunshine continues throughout the day across some southern and southeastern parts of the UK. But you can see these areas of high and eventually medium level cloud drifting in from the northwest, bringing with them outbreaks of rain by the afternoon into Scotland and Northern Ireland, a freshening breeze in the northwest of Scotland, 10 to 13 Celsius here. 14 to 15 further south, a bit higher, I suspect, in the southeast where we keep some bright skies until the end of the day. But it's dry for England and Wales until the end of the weekend. And you can see the rainfall accumulations on this map for the next 5 days, from the start of the forecast right the way through to the end of Sunday. Very little rainfall, just a few spots across central parts of Northern Ireland and central Scotland initially. Then on Sunday, the rain starts to build again in the far northwest, but it stays clear across England and Wales. Even so, it's not a great deal of rain in the northwest. Typically 10 to 25 millimetres in the wetter spots by the end of Sunday, and that's 5-day accumulations, whilst it's, well, hardly any rain at all until the end of the weekend for the southern half of the UK. Now, the rain in the northwest is being brought by a cold front, and although it's not going to produce an awful lot of rain further south, a fairly damp start to Monday perhaps, it does clear and allows colder air to arrive from the north-northwest, and that means we're into a polar maritime airflow, and that will bring with it a classic mixture of sunny spells and showers, typical March weather with showers composed of rain, sleet, hail, snow. The further north you are and the higher up you are, the more likely you are to see some sleet and snow. Mostly it's higher parts of Scotland and northern England, perhaps lower parts of the north of Scotland, the Northern Isles seeing some snow to lower levels, but really nothing out of the ordinary for March, nothing to get too excited about. Classic March weather, and it doesn't last long either, this brief colder spell, because the next Atlantic low and weather front is on its way. Actually, this is arriving courtesy of a jet stream that has shifted a bit further south. Remember, it was to the north of the UK before. By Monday, it's a bit further south. It's bringing this area of low pressure in. By the end of Monday, we've got a ridge of high pressure building, and actually Tuesday starts fine, but these weather fronts may well bump into the colder air and bring some wintry weather over northern hills first thing Tuesday before the milder air arrives behind. And brisk winds, outbreaks of rain, but nothing especially unsettled as this low moves in. You can see it's not particularly fierce. And this graphic shows how things are shaping up for the middle of next week. At this point, a week ahead, we look at multiple model runs, and this summarises the output from more than 250 model runs. It shows the most likely weather patterns for Wednesday the 25th of March. The most likely is here. High pressure to the southwest, more of a breeze from the west-southwest across northern parts of the UK, perhaps some outbreaks of rain, but nothing particularly heavy. The colours here indicate where it's likely to be wetter than normal or drier than normal. Now, these are the two second and third most likely weather patterns, and they both show a bit more of an unsettled period for the middle of next week. Stronger westerly airflow, the blues over western parts of the UK and especially western Scotland showing where it's likely to be wetter than normal. So yeah, it looks likely that around the middle of next week we'll see these areas of low pressure move in from the Atlantic, reinvigorated jet stream a bit further south than we're expecting over the next few days, and some unsettled weather. Thursday looks very similar, most likely weather pattern, high pressure to the southwest but more changeable further north. And here we've got low pressure, second most likely weather pattern, low pressure dipping slightly into Europe as it clears the UK, and similar for the third. And that masks some reasonably windy scenarios coming out in the computer modelling at the moment. And I just want to compare two of the extreme scenarios for the end of next week, Thursday going into Friday. And these both are from the European model. The top one is the control run, and this is member 20 from the European model. They both show high pressure on Thursday out to the west of the UK, and they both show some form of low pressure crossing the UK and diving into the North Sea. But you can see the low on the bottom picture, much more developed, a deeper area of low pressure, likely to bring a more widely windy spell as it goes through the UK, initially across northern parts and northwestern parts of the country, and then diving into the North Sea, perhaps bringing some stronger winds around North Sea coast. But the low in the top image, the control run, really quite a weak feature and soon fizzles away as it moves east. High pressure quickly rebuilding. Actually, by Saturday, both look quite similar again. So there are differences in terms of how well developed these areas of low pressure are likely to be later next week, and how windy the weather is across the UK as a result. They're likely to affect the north and then the east as they clear into the continent before higher pressure returns. Has to be said, this scenario is looking more likely. This has more support from the computer modelling than this windier scenario, but you wouldn't entirely discount that. Not only does the top image have more support from the computer modelling, but it has more support from what we call teleconnections. Those are weather and climate events that are happening elsewhere on the planet that can have knock-on effects on the UK's weather, the jet stream and all of that sort of thing. And at the moment, certain goings-on in the stratosphere above the North Pole and tropical rainfall, something known as the Madden-Julian oscillation. Both those aspects are covered in some of our explainer videos on our YouTube channel if you want to learn more. But suffice to say, at the moment, happenings elsewhere on the planet would favour higher pressure closer to the UK for the end of March than lower pressure, a weaker jet stream. But we don't just look at these teleconnections, we look at what's going on upstream of the UK, and something interesting is happening over North America at the moment, a fairly extreme heat wave for the time of year for March across central and western parts of the USA. Now, this shows the situation into next week, and it looks likely, this is a map looking down on the North Pole, which is here, there's the UK, and here's North America, and this is a summary through next week of the difference in pressure at around 18,000 feet above the surface. But effectively, just to simplify it, this shows a large area of high pressure still prevalent across the USA and above average temperatures remaining. Perhaps not as extreme as they're expected this coming Friday, but nevertheless, very high temperatures across a large part of the USA. And then we've got this low pressure, this upper trough, dipping into the Atlantic before a ridge again for the UK. So you can imagine the jet stream going north over western parts of the USA, dipping south over the Atlantic, and then going north again over the UK. Now, let's say the heat over the USA is even more intense next week than the computer models reckon at the moment. Then that would allow the jet stream to be pushed even further north, and that, like cracking a whip, would force the jet stream further south again. It become more amplified over the Atlantic, and that subsequently would force the jet stream to move further north over the UK again. So more intense heat next week over western parts of the USA may result in a stronger high pressure ridge over the UK, but that's more than a week away, a long way off. Lots has to happen before we get there. However, what we can say is that the direction of travel appears to favour higher pressure as we go through to the end of March and the start of April. And this sums it up. This shows the most likely weather patterns for the next couple of weeks, similar to those charts I showed a moment ago, except that these show for each day whether lower pressure patterns, the blues, are more likely than higher pressure patterns, which are these reds and oranges. And it looks like these reds and oranges start to take over for the end of March, but there's still a lot of uncertainty in it. And effectively through next week, latter part of next week, it all comes down to how strong that high pressure is from the southwest. And it does look likely that it will be sitting out to the west of the UK. This is the pressure anomaly through next week from the European model. It looks likely to be sitting out to the west of the UK with low pressure coming in from the north and toppling into the continent. But then if I fast forward to the following week, so this is beyond the 10-day period, but this is the last couple of days of March and into the start of April, and it shows the higher pressure stronger over the UK, so perhaps moving more across the UK. And that would tie in with everything I've talked about up to this point, which is that towards the end of March, after this more unsettled interlude throughout much of next week, towards the end of March into the start of April, the direction of travel appears to be that higher pressure becomes more likely once again. But that's all to play for now, because we've got a lot of weather to cover in the meantime, and you can find all our latest updates on our YouTube channel. Bye-bye.